Hey everyone, it's great to see you. Today, I'd like to talk about World of Horror, Fall 2023. Very interesting game published by Easebrid Games, small indie publisher with a few titles under their belt at this point, and developed by a gentleman named Paweł Kozminski, I believe is how you say his name. Paweł is a dentist, and between his time working as a dentist, he also found time to develop this game, which is something I find to be really impressive. I mean, I'd have to imagine being a dentist alone makes you a pretty busy guy, but then to come out and make this very cool game as well is very cool. So, good on him. I really like this release of the game. This is I got from PlayAsia, and it is the Japanese release of the game. The nice thing about it is, though it is the Japanese release, it's still all in English at your preference. So that makes it really convenient to actually play the game. And on the back here we have just a little bit about the game. Unfortunately, my Japanese is not as strong as somebody's reading this should be. So not much to say on it, but I do like the art, and I like this very black and white aesthetic. And it lets some things pop about the case too. The blue, of course, from the PS4 style, and then I always like in some of the Japanese titles you get this little orange in the rating on the spine there. And on the inside here we have the disc, and we also have your standard kind of disclaimer and legal stuff you see in a lot of games. Nothing particularly interesting there, though I do quite like the insert art too. It's like a whole class of people on the front. So aesthetically, I think from the moment you get this game in your hands and you begin looking at it, you're already going to be quite enjoying its aesthetics if you're someone like myself. But then when you get the game going, that's when the fun really begins. World of Horror is really cool. It is a 1 or 2-bit pixel art styled video game that really tries to reference and is inspired by a few cool things, contemporary and more historical in the gaming space. So, of course, 1-bit, 2-bit art. It plays like an old school kind of visual novel game or point and click style game, more on the visual novel side, of course, where I would almost describe this as playing through another one of its inspirations, a Junji Ito horror manga, where you're kind of in control, and it'd almost be, I guess, to the equivalent of playing like a choose your own adventure, like reading a choose your own adventure book, but it's like in a game form because of the way in which it functions. The story is laid simply so that you, as the character and the player of the game, can really create that narrative along the way. But realistically, the general idea is the old gods, they've reawakened, and they're causing a lot of basically crazy stuff to go down in the city of, I think it's Shiokawa, in the year 1980X is what the year is. And so essentially you'll play as one of a variety of detectives who have to make their way into this lighthouse and confront the old god and the horrors within. And in the process of doing that, before you can get into the lighthouse, you have to solve a series of other mysteries kind of going on in the town because of the arrival of the old god. And throughout that process, you'll get these keys and you can open up the lighthouse, so on and so forth. All the detectives are pretty cool. You can be anyone from like a reporter to a high school kid. And all of these various people have different kind of pros and cons to their characters. A character I played a lot, I believe her name is Miku. She was popular, for instance. She had a lot of charisma. And charisma helps as an RPG stat in many various skill checks in the game, and also your ability to recruit allies to come along with you for the journey. And that was one of my favorites, but again, I liked the reporter that I was mentioning too. I can't remember his name. I was trying to remember it, but like he starts with a camera, and the camera you can flash enemies with to say increase your likelihood that they miss their attack. You know, little things like that make it interesting. And also, when you start any story and you're in the character's apartment, you know who this character is. Sometimes changes the design a little bit of some of the things you might be able to pick up in their apartment. Like some of them are more likely to start with an empty bottle in their home, which is great because you can fill it with water to rejuvenate your stamina, for instance. Others may have some funds hidden away that you can pick up. And so, you know, these little things, it did make it feel like when you were choosing a character, when you were choosing a scenario, that you did have some degree of significance on your ability to strategize a journey throughout this game, right? And so that's about where the story is. And of course, each of these characters is a little bit of background that kind of helps give you the flavor of who you're playing as or whatnot. But from there, it's a pure gameplay experience, really. You start and open one of these mysteries, and they're really cool. It can be anything from, I think Kuchisake Onna is a older Japanese urban myth. So you can end up in a mystery where you have to be confronting Kuchisake Onna, or it could be something like, you know, there's something strange about this ramen shop and 100 people are lined up outside of it day and night. And so you choose one of these various mysteries going on, and then from there you're kind of in this this tablet of interface buttons and interactables and things like that. And at first, I would say if someone was to play this game, especially without any experience at all in kind of the visual novel gaming space and so on, they would probably feel quite overwhelmed, because not only do you have these kind of more procedurally generated story experiences happening, you have inventory management, you have RPG stats that you want to build up and you want to understand, of course, so you can better leverage them. And then you have the actual interface where you're navigating and things like that. So you start in your apartment, and then you can choose. Generally, there's like 12 different places you can go to, roughly. And so you choose one of those to travel to, and then at any of them, you can investigate just the area in general. So if I choose downtown, right, I can go investigate the downtown area. And when you investigate, little events will happen. So it could be anything such as weird. It's like, oh, I lost my way. Or it could be, you know, confronting an enemy. So you investigate an area, and that kind of will, depending on the event, could penalize you. It could reward you with items, reward you with money, so on and so forth. But there's also some static kind of shopping environments you can go into. So if you are downtown, there's a shop run by a little dog, little cute dog, and you can go and you can buy items there. And items can be useful for raising combat stats, raising skill check opportunities, and so on. And so you can do those kind of things in each of these various, I think, 12 or so spaces as well. And the way the mystery works at the end of the day is to say, oh, hey, to advance the story, you know, this thing is happening and we should investigate the school. And so, of course, to move forward the mystery, you would go to the school and you would investigate the school. And also there's some, you know, side content as well. For each mystery, there's a little bonus way to unlock new endings. So it'll say, you know, go explore the seaside 3 times, and you go explore 3 times, and then it'll help open up some more context for the story you're going on, that may be kind of side to actually solving the mystery. I'm throwing a lot of information at you, but it's just because that's just the nature of this game. It's really hard, I would say, to describe in words exactly the experience, but that's what it's like. You go to these places, and then it'll develop the mystery further. And the mysteries are really cool. Sometimes you face horrific enemies, or you confront like horrible reality, or, you know, things like that. And so it is really exciting to move from investigation to investigation area. Um, and also, can be very challenging at times. To kind of dive into the combat a little bit, the combat has just as many options as what I'm attempting to describe here for the actual navigating and playing of this game. When you're in combat, if you have a weapon in your hand, you can attack with the weapon, or you can attack with your fists, or sometimes you'll fight a ghost, and the ghost actually can't be hit by weapons. So then you have to come up with a prayer, a combination of bows and claps that would exorcise the ghost. Or you also have different like status options in these menus. So when you enter combat, you'll have 100 buttons that you can just press, and you queue up moves over a set value of time. So it's kind of like, I guess, ATB. Like you think about, you have 200 of those. Okay, well maybe attacking will take 40. Maybe doing the bow and clap, each of those are like 15. But you have a queue of 200, so you can queue up all these moves and you can throw them together. And a lot of that's dependent, and what moves you want to use is dependent upon your character's playstyle. So some characters, I was mentioning Miku, she has a high charisma, and so when you bring allies into the fight with you, you can basically use a skill that allows you to kind of everyone to attack at once. And so with charisma, the amount of time it takes in your ATB is littler, and you can basically gang up on them, because the more characters you have kind of following you around, the more damage that moves does. In Miku's instance, that's the way to play. But some other characters, they're stronger or they're more dexterous, and so you kind of want to find weapons, or they might be really smart and knowledgeable, and so they'll have like a ton of spells they can use. So you'll want to kind of match to your character's playstyle in order to defeat the enemies. And the enemies can do a number of things. So your character has health and they have reason. And so you can take health damage due to like physical attacks, and you can take reason damage, not only in combat, but also in skill checks and events out in the world. Because you see something horrible or you experience something horrible. And some enemies inflict doom. And so doom is basically the game over stat. If it reaches 100%, the old god is fully awoken up and basically destroys the planet. Or the town or whatever. I don't know the scale exactly. They don't really tell you. So some enemies inflict doom percentage. And so as you start to play this game and you begin to familiarize yourself with the game, its many stats, whether that's, again, strength, dexterity, charisma, knowledge, luck, how much money you have even is super important at times. It really begins to further branch out and feel very personalized because of the way you play the character. And I do also appreciate that the game has enough randomness to it that you can play the same character the same way twice, but there will be vastly different outcomes to your character's experience based upon the skill checks, the randomized mysteries and enemies you'll have to face, and so on. And so it's kind of like a roguelike in that sense, where your character can die and that'll be the end of that run, and your general run will go maybe 45 minutes, an hour and a half, and then you kind of refresh again. And I did actually really like this gameplay loop. It's typically something I'm not super interested in, but here in World of Horror, I mean, what's the expectation that you're not going to get a game over? So I like the way that they built in kind of your character going crazy or dying or something like that is part of the gaming experience for you to try again as a different detective. And it's fun to play all the various detectives and so on. But that's the core of the game. You get a mystery, you go investigate places, you get into combat with enemies, or you go through these skill events, and you basically attempt to do your best to solve the mysteries, get in the lighthouse, survive without losing all your health or without losing all of your reason. Either of them can end in a game over, or if you allow doom to creep up too much, that can end in a game over too. And so you're balancing a lot. You're balancing your character's well-being, the town's well-being, and every time you investigate a place, the doom is going up, time is running out. And so you do constantly feel this pressure to be thinking about what's the best approach, what's the right thing to do, how do I manage the limited items and inventory things I've picked up along the way due to bad luck or good luck or so on and so forth. And so every playthrough I did, I learned more, I better strategized, I understood enemies because I'd faced them a couple times, and I really began to feel my skills and my personalized knowledge and experience playing this game developing, which for me was very cool because I think World of Horror is a game that can be straightforward as long as you understand the interface, or very complex depending on the difficulty, how you play, what character you play as, and the level of personalization in what is a fairly simple game, I would say overall at the top level, is really impressive. And so shout out to Pavel the dentist. Like, you're crushing it, dude. You have a future in video games. I would imagine. So yeah, in a game, to really wrap up a couple of those things, story-wise, I really enjoy all the mysteries here. I love even just the general story, and there's a few panels that open up each time you start a new game that tell you a little bit about Shirakawa and who you are and where you are. And I love how it kind of reiterates the same time, the same things. It's really fun. And I think every story is pretty satisfying in the way it ends, with many different endings for some of them, which make the game fun and with a lot of replayability. And I'd say the same goes for the gameplay as well. One thing I wanted to tackle on with the gameplay is I played the game about 20 hours, I would say. So I did maybe 10, 15 complete playthroughs and had failures here and there as well. Once you get to the point where you've kind of hit many of the objectives, right? Simple things. In the PlayStation version, you get trophies for playing through the game as every character, right? At least once. And you get trophies for performing or hitting certain skill checks and skill events in the right way. I think there's one where if you kill a character, sacrifice a character wearing a certain mask and having a certain weapon, then you'll get a trophy, for instance. Once I started to get to the point where I played through the game as all the characters and I've completed a lot of this content, and understood, what mystery I needed to be in and what approach I needed to take to unlock certain endings or achieve a thorough investigation bonus, to build my experience and level my character up, I did start to feel a little bit of repetitiveness, and I think it's because when you get to that point, you're kind of speed running through things almost, I would say. You're like speed running, investigate. Okay, I've seen the skill event. All right, I know what to answer that doesn't penalize me or the worst kind of way. Investigate. Okay, clear the mystery, move on. And so I played it a lot. I don't know how much the average person is going to invest or willing to play in this game, but those are just some considerations that I thought about when doing so. I want to touch on the sound. The music in this game is so awesome. It's really got this, it's kind of like chiptune-ish, right? It's supposed to mimic 2-bit era games and music. And the thing I really like about it here is that I feel like the average chiptune song is very straightforward and usually in some kind of major key. The first things that come to my mind when I think of it are like Mario music, this upbeat kind of fun music. And the cool thing about the World of Horror is that the music is of that style, that technological style, but very deep and cool in its mystery and in its eeriness, and it just sounds fun. It sounds exciting. It really sounds like you're diving into a world of horror, right? Just something mysterious or scary at times. And I really enjoyed that about all the music that you hear across the game, whether it's the standard kind of drawling soundtrack that plays when you're just kind of in the main interface and exploring around, or the opening track that goes across the start of the new game. The music is so awesome. So whoever did do the composition, I shout out to you. I think it's really cool. And then graphically, the 2-bit art style is, again, I think so awesome. I really love the art style. I liked that there's a lot of randomizations to the way the game looks, in terms of there's various color panels that will kind of set the tone for the story you're going to play, and I really enjoyed randomizing those and kind of just seeing what combination spits out, because that alone does change the look and feel of the game and the mysteries you're on and so on with a certain character. So I'm not a professional in 2-bit graphics, so I don't know if there's huge critiques to give. However, what I appreciated was that the game was sharp visually. It was very unique and interesting to look at, and the art direction, you know, with the various enemies and your character and the town that you're in, and the little icons on the interface and so on and so forth. I started to really familiarize myself with them. They made sense, and the art direction was super impressive and creative and so fun. I'm not so familiar as a reader in, say, something like Junji Ito. I've heard that there's a lot of inspiration in this game for his works. But overall, not to know if they captured that appropriately or not. This game stands alone for me as a game that you really don't see this kind of visual style represented very frequently. And so again, I thought the game sounded great, it looked great, it played pretty great. You know, after a while it did start to wear on me a little bit, but I did always have fun revisiting the mysteries and the story. The other just big thing I wanted to mention as well is that while I did quite enjoy the game, one thing that I did find disappointing in some ways was that the released version that I'm playing, at least now here, is a little out of... It doesn't feel fully complete. There's items and there's events and locations that you'll visit or interact with where there wasn't really an obvious thing you could do with them or anything. And so when I figured that out, I was like, okay, I guess I should just look this up, because I can't figure out what to do if I want to use this item or go to this location. And what I learned was that those things are not fully integrated, as in you'll get the item, but there's nothing you could do with it. There's no story. You can't even sell it, you know, in some cases. And so it would have been nice if the game had been fully, you know, completed. But I hear that they're still working on it and updating the game. And Pavel, you're a dentist too, bro. Just, you know, if it takes you some time, I guess that makes sense. But what has been released here, I've had a lot of fun with. However, just something to mind if you buy the game now, that you might have that experience too. Okay, so overall, World of Horror, awesome, very cool game. I had a lot of fun with it. I think it's worth a pickup. I bought this physical copy on PlayAsia. I don't know if there's another PlayStation copy available outside of this physical, but it is really cool, and this version does come with English options, so the Japanese release, that's totally cool. You could buy it. Okay, cool. Did you play World of Horror? And if you did, would love to know your experience, and if you liked the game such as I, or if you had other critiques and so on. And if you liked the video, please like the video, and would love for you to subscribe and stick around for more talks on games in the future. Well, until next time, appreciate tuning in, and take care.